Good evening, everyone. My name is Rudy Page, and welcome once again to one of our dialogues. And we're on a new topic now, and this is called Diaspora Climate Action. So over the next few weeks, we will have a series that's really about raising awareness, improving public understanding, but also looking at some of the most innovative ways to contribute to the pathways towards 2030, Vision 2030 Jamaica. So we've decided to make climate change one of the 4 areas of focus. And the reason being is climate change is impacting the lives and the livelihoods of people around the world, and is one of the greatest global challenges of our time. So we thought it's really important with this first program just to set the framework so that we can reach a consensus on how we're going to collaborate, both at the local level, local meaning our neighborhoods and local communities in the UK, in the US, and also in the Caribbean, but in particular today we're talking about Jamaica. And then how that all links to the overall diaspora movement, which is very well known for its work in contributing to the disaster efforts. So I'm really pleased now to introduce some speakers for the next hour or so, who are all in their own different way have done a lot of work around helping people to actually understand the importance and the role of the impact of climate change. So I'm going to start with my good friend from Boston, USA, Andrew Sharp. Andrew, how are you?
Thank you so much, Rudy. I'm doing well. So glad to be on this forum with all my colleagues, Dean, Francis, and Christine. And it's so important. This climate issue is affecting all, it's global. So whether you're in the US or in Europe or in Africa or the Caribbean or South America, we are all faced with climate change and we're all faced with disaster. We've been having extreme heat wave on this side of the planet, and we also see that you guys been having heat wave on your side of the planet. So we are so happy to be actioning the importance of climate change and providing solution to it. As you had mentioned, we wanted to find out what was going on in the region when it comes to disaster and issues in terms of climate change. And that engagement discussion with the ambassador was so crucial during the time of COVID-19, where we brought in various countries' ambassador representative to give an update on what's happening in their territory with regards to climate, COVID, and all of that. In addition, we know that the Caribbean is prone to natural disaster. So we know from the volcano to the earthquakes in Haiti to the hurricanes. Knock on wood, we're doing well for hurricane season, knock on wood. So we're so happy that we're able to provide that system. It took us a while. It's important. Key things that we came out of it is that preparation. In the Caribbean, we say prevention is better than cure. So preparation is the key for disaster. So we had to put in different components to be able to respond to disaster in the region. Our first disaster was the Hurricane Dorian for the Bahamas, where we had supported the Bahamas with their hurricane relief. And as a foundation, we're a nonprofit 501c3 that focuses on persons with disability, which is the vulnerable population. That's key thing that we must protect our vulnerable population, especially those with disability. So we went in and ensured that supplies were given to these persons. We set up a shipment company that who can provide support for shipping items in. And then again, the importance of engaging with your diplomatic corps in your area. I know, Rudy, you're very good at it in terms of the High Commission there in the UK. Same here in USA, that we correspond with the ambassadors out of the Washington office, which they are appointed by their relevant government, to engage with us, Caribbean Diaspora organization here, to give support to the region in terms of providing support in terms of equipment, disaster relief, training too. Training is so crucial. Community response team. Who are your community emergency response team that is on the ground when something happens and you have no electricity and no form of communication? So we're so happy that we continue to do this same work and continue to be ready and waiting. I remember when St. Vincent had their volcano, the world didn't know much about what was going on. So working with you, Rudy, and Ambassador Gilchrist out of the St. Vincent and the Grenadine, Washington office, we were able to have her to give response right on board. We were able to get the systematic UWI systematic team who is on the ground to give live updates on what was happening on the ground with regards to the volcano, the evacuation and the placement, and what was needed for disaster stuff that was needed within the different communities. So that's very, very key that came out of it. One, preparation.
Hundreds of people on the platform as well during that time.
Yes, and we were able to give that information even to you guys. I mean, even to the Consul General and the High Commission, we were able to give them that update information, readily awaiting that persons were not able to get right away. So with that kind of diaspora collaborative effort and the diaspora involvement, we are able to look at what is really needed in the islands and how we can support them when it comes to climate change and disaster. And another aspect that we're focusing on too, as I stated, is training and education. That's so critical, that you have people know how to do, you know, CPR, all of those important things, looking at weather pattern, all of that. So thank you so much for this opportunity, Rudy, as we continue to support our Caribbean community by bridging the gap between the community and the politics, the government, in terms of that engagement. Thanks.
Thank you for that, Andrew. We're going to come back to you, of course. I'd now like to move over to Francis Seeley, based here in London, North London, from Enfield Climate Action Forum. Good evening, Francis. Hope all is well.
Hi there. I think all is well. So far, so good.
Excellent. So can you give us a bit of background about the forum and, you know, and the plans that you have over the next few months?
Yeah, I'll give you some background to it, especially around what Christine said. I tried to record earlier because I thought what Christine said was so fantastic about how difficult it is to get people to see a problem that's in the future when they've got to deal with poverty now. And it's because we don't believe it is in the future, it's happening now. We've started a forum called Enfield Climate Action Forum, which is a network of 130 different civil society groups who meet together and try to discuss how we mitigate and adapt to climate change. And as Andrew said, climate change is impacting with extreme weather on the Caribbean. It's causing all sorts of problems. And if we don't learn not only to mitigate, but adapt to it and have the right infrastructure and have the right help. That is important. Now, one of the things we have thought is important is what Christine said. If you can link climate change to people's health, public health, that's crucial. And so we've got a project that we're working on where we're trying to work in east of the Burial, where the more marginalized communities live, because it's the more marginalized communities globally and nationally who will suffer the most from climate change and will suffer in their public health the most. So we've got a project to reach out to them to find out what their issues are. So they might say, like Christine just told us, we're more concerned about fuel poverty, we're more concerned about food poverty, and we're more concerned about the fact we can't insulate our homes or we can't make it cool in the summer. And if we can look at those things and then try to address that with the health authorities and the local authority, that's really important. So that's what we're doing, but I can go into a bit more detail, but I know you've got questions, Rudy.
Yeah, so what this platform is about, as I mentioned, about awareness and improving understanding. So what's going to be your approach? Because much of what we've outlined is not new. The structural challenges have been there for a long time. And Andrew, you will remember, I was involved with the Montserrat volcano after, and that's 20 years ago. So the structures and what people have to live under, we're kind of used to that. So what is going to be the process now over the next few weeks for people?
The process is this. I mean, what we've done is we've tried to engage the communities with video stories about what they feel. We've done a couple focus groups, but the big thing is 2 community panels in September and October, and a small one at a children's theatre later on. And in order to engage people, because Christine's right, if you said come along and talk about, climate change, it's too abstract, they won't come. So we're trying to do it around issues. In the day, we'll have 5 issues, maybe, like air pollution, and we've got a problem with an incinerator locally, green spaces, which is really, really important, healthy diet for a healthy planet. We'll look at a session with children and young people about how they feel, with some theatre as well. So we'll have these different sessions going on, and with a facilitator, they'll get a discussion going on that, and then they're broaden it out to a more general concerns that the community has about climate change that we may not have thought about, or we haven't thought it is as important as they do. So the aim is to try and get them to tell us what we should be doing, all of us.
Yeah, and obviously air pollution and lack of green spaces is something that it's pretty well understood, but what can be done about it, isn't it? So
well, there's a lot that can be done. We have organisations in England like Trees for Cities, Seeds for Growth, that work with communities. Seeds for Growth work with residents associations to set up community gardens. Trees for Cities work with communities in marginalised communities to have trees on the streets, to have allotments growing, to have verges with flowers on, because the more greenery you have, the more it captures carbon, and the more it reduces the intensity of heat when you get real bad heat like we had last week. So, to do even small things like that are important, but if you have a strategy towards doing it, you can probably tackle it a great deal.
No, absolutely. And I guess that's the challenging point in terms of neighborhoods and local communities, is the development of the strategy, the resources being allocated, and then of course effective delivery, which is all part of the challenge. Excellent. So we came up with this interesting concept of health climate action, and again, and you touched on it in terms of the alignment with public health activities. How do you envisage local people actually getting involved beyond going to some of the panels?
Well, I hope,
We
Chris,
improve representation by involvement, so it's the
But-
pathways to involvement, I guess.
yeah, I agree. I mean, our first problem is getting them to come to the panels. That's going to be a big push now in the next few weeks. So we've got to do that. And we're working with groups on the ground. We're going to deliver lots and lots of leaflets, about 15,000 leaflets with the program. But what we hope is that the project won't end when the project ends. We've got to have some sort of sustainability thereafter. So we're looking at how we can develop climate health champions who will work with local communities, and those champions will come from those communities. We're looking at developing climate cafes where people who have anxiety, lots of young people have huge anxiety, where people with anxiety and stress can come and talk together. And we'll look at how we can work with some of those national organizations like Trees for Growth and Trees for Cities and Seeds for Growth, to see if they can come in and help those communities develop projects. And because we're funded, like Christine is, partly by the Health Authority, the sustainability group in that Health Authority are now on our core team, and we'll be working closely with them so that we can get the health authorities to go into that community as well.
Because one of the challenges, even with the current system, is, again, what are the access pathways, and also the means of communication as well, because again, that's why we're including innovation as part of our dialogues over the next few months, is that we've got to look at more creative ways to improve the means of communication so that people can get involved, access, and actually understand where the pathways are for representation. So there's some very practical things that we want to get involved.
Rudy, can I chime in?
Yeah.
Can I chime in a little bit? Mr. Seeley, you're doing such a great work, because coming from the Summit of the Americas conference in LA, it spoke about the importance of the civil society group. And I love that you're working from the grassroots, from bottom up, which is so crucial, especially in all communities, not just only the US, but worldwide, in terms of preparing these community, having trusted voices in the community who can really explain and educate their community on climate change. So great work on that. And I confirm with you about the importance of that NGOs on the ground, grassroots organization, who can also action the call on climate change.
Yeah, and you raise a good point, because we talk about trusted messenger model as well here, Andrew, especially what we've been through the last couple of years, where those trusted messengers have been important. You know, the scientists, you know, the faith leaders, the community leaders, people who can trust and set out the facts. So we all say around that, it's about people being informed, reassured, so that they can make the choice. And we certainly do need trusted messengers for that. And we also need the community champions as well, as Francis has indicated. You know, they provide peer support, and they're very good at, you know, being in the environment where people are familiar and comfortable, so that they can have these dialogues and tackle some of these difficult issues, despite, you know, all the different things they've got to deal with. So yeah, so that's encouraging. So Francis, we'll come back to you. I'm going to go over to Mario. So Mario, are you there in Jamaica?
I'm here.
Excellent.
Afternoon again, everyone.
So Mario, we know you've got a great innovative project in Hermitage, Augustown. So if you could just tell us a bit about yourself first, and obviously your high expertise in this area, and then tell us a bit about your project and why you decided to do this particular project.
Well, afternoon, everyone. My name is Mario McGregor, and I have recently started a new company. It's a research and product development company. And I guess overall, when I started the company, I started to actually pay attention to what is important, because we as people, we always pick and choose what's important to us. And living in my community of Hermitage, I realized that we have a serious problem when it comes to flooding. And it's not just in Hermitage, but I would say across Jamaica. I mean, everywhere around the world has their own issues when it comes to flooding and global warming issues. But in Jamaica, we realized that every time it rains, there's always flooding in the same areas, always. When it comes down to Hermitage, when there's too much rainfall, it's always the same thing. You can't cross the streets properly. The drains are clogged up, and it's just from I was a kid, basically growing up, it's always been the same recurring thing. A few years ago, there was, it happens regular, but a few years ago, there was an incident where a young boy lost his life as he was coming home from school. And we're kids and you're gonna play in the water, you're gonna jump in the water sometime, but basically he got bad luck and he drowned. And it took a long time for them to find his body in the end. One of the main reasons I realized that it was because of the blockages in the drains. He got trapped basically in the drainage system, because too much debris is there. So basically I decided to look into these type of stuff, and of course from interest from other persons, so I decided to look into it. And basically we found that there's things that we can do to avoid such tragedies. And basically one of the most important things is to just basically keep our drains clean. But awareness is something very important, and I don't think that we're fully aware. Or persons will hear about incidents that happen, but until it's really close to home, that's when it really becomes effective, or we feel it. But I appreciate the interest from the diaspora to assist with the problems and issues that we're facing here in Jamaica. Global warming is a serious issue, and especially our health is, without our life, there's nothing else. But otherwise from that, since 2019, I've been doing recycling. I realized that the environment is such a very important issue for us, because we need the air to breathe, we need the water to drink, we need the sun, to help us grow. And I realized that I may not be able to save you or encourage you as an adult to participate, but my focus is on the young generations. So I have been engaging with primary school students to get them a part of, create that awareness from early, get them aware of what is flooding, environmental issues, coastal cleanups, making them focus on the environment, because they will be growing up in it. And, no one wants to, no one would like to go to the beach and can't go in the water because, it's too dirty. That doesn't make any sense. Or, we're thirsty, we can't drink the water. So basically, just to say, since 2019, I've been engaging with primary school students and other volunteers, and we've been doing a lot of cleanup since then. We've been featured on Jamaica Information Service, and regarding our initiatives, what we've been doing. And basically, when it comes down to Hermitage, we realize that there's also a problem with flooding here, where the land is a situation happening on one side of the community where it's like the rainfall, heavy rainfall is creating a situation where there could be potential landslides. So I believe that based on the observations, that within the next 5 to 10 years, we will be facing such a tragedy here in the community. And it's not just this community, but based on just observations from what I've noticed here. So my intention is to just let you guys be aware of what we're doing and the solutions to help with this. And we just really need everyone to really play a role, because from years of experience of doing this, I've realized that we see politicians come on TV and they say environment, just as though we're having discussion about global warming and changes and stuff like that. But there's not that many buy-in from society. You know, they just want to speak and look good, but then there's no one really jumping on board to say, okay, let's do this. So I really appreciate this, what's going on, but I hope that it goes somewhere, you know.
Could you just briefly give us an outline of your flood prevention project, just so that people can, again, we're back to that word understanding.
Sorry, can you just repeat that for me, please, Rudy?
Can you just give us a brief overview of your actual project, your flood prevention project? Well,
the overall purpose for the project is to really create awareness. And as I had mentioned, because I'm involved in recycling, it is one of our intentions to create a circular economy here in Jamaica. We tend to always say that, you know, it's only first world countries that, you know, care about the environment and stuff like that, but it's not true. And I really believe that if we are able to just create a huge awareness, especially starting in schools. You know, I think it should be maybe not mandatory, but I think that, you know, it should start from not just the homes, but in schools where students know what is plastic and what is the damage caused by plastics and all the different stuff. So one thing is very, sorry, go ahead.
So I was going to say, so what would you say to young people are some of the methods to help control floodings?
Well, some of the methods would be to create proper water channels. Well, what you say for youth? Well, for the youth, it would be really
there's something the system has to do, but there's something that the public has to understand what the issues are, because we don't always know that we're the ones contributing to some of the difficulties. And I guess you touched on it in the beginning when you said about the drains being blocked, and obviously I guess they're blocked with litter, which is dropped by us, the public, you know, and those kind of.
I mean, there's lots of debris from, you know, tree branches and leaves, but what we've realized is majority of it, it's from plastic bags and bottles, you know, because that is something that's discarded everywhere. I mean, I remember we once did, well, to answer your question, or to answer you, basically for young persons, they just need to be aware, because we have to create that awareness for them to be able to see it and accept it and acknowledge it, you know. So we need to just get it to them that proper disposal of our garbage is important, you know. But society is so laid back that, you know, we just throw our plastic out the car window. You know, we open a gum wrapper and we throw it on the ground because we say, oh, it's so small, that's not going to do anything. Most of the times we hide when we do it, you know, because persons are conscious of it. But you know, for the young generation, I think that we really, and this is one of the reasons why I want to do a project here in Hermitage or Augustown, where we really create an awareness for everyone. We realize that there's a economy or financial benefits just from recycling. And I mean, I'm speaking about recycling, but it all comes back down to flooding, because the less plastics and less debris we have in the system, in the drainage and on the streets, it eliminates the cause for floodings, you know.
Okay, that's great. For the moment, could if we bring Dean in here, because Dean, with the work that you're doing with young people every week on your platforms. What are your thoughts in terms of what Mario's been saying again about this awareness and understanding, community understanding?
Yes, first of all, I want to thank you, Rudy, for the tremendous work you're doing in making connection work, and all the panelists, all protocol observed. My brother Andrew in Boston, I'm here in Connecticut, and Mario is my neighbor. I knew Mario before he was born, so I'm really proud to see that he's taking that task. I've been living in the same community in Hermitage from 64, before Mario was long born. And I could remember an experience with Gilbert, Mario's uncle. When Gilbert were coming, there's a saying in Jamaica said, young bird don't know storm. My dad cut out, take all the coconut from off the tree. And, Mario's neighbors, my father was telling them, take the coconut off the tree because it's dangerous. And they didn't take heed. In the height of Gilbert, that's the time they were calling my dad to come and we have to go and assist to get those coconuts off the tree. Half of the community zinc roof was all blown off to Gilbert. Today in Hermitage, 90% of the house have slab. So some things have to happen for you to learn, flooding. So, being through Gilbert, the light wire was broken down. Now, Jamaica is really up to date. Most of the power system is on the ground because Gilbert was like a test to really improve quality of Jamaica. So Jamaica is so up to date. I mean, I was in Hurricane Gilbert, and because of those, if you notice when there's a disaster, Jamaica don't suffer much loss because they learn from each mistake. Glad that Mario, as a young person, and with my show under the reggae tree, I just see that Blue and White, Blue and Shake, it's a citizen association of Hermitage. And Mario is the person that is empowering and educating our young people, not in Hermitage, but across Jamaica and across the globe. And education to the young is so important, because what we say, because the young person always said, as a Mario, take it for granted, and it's their world. It's our world. But once we get that awareness, it can eliminate a lot of prevention. And as the saying go, prevention is better than cure. And I have seen Mario on the airport road. He had a team of people taking up plastic bags and bottles. And that team had over the amount of bags. It was just one bag and as he said, a little wrap and a little bottle. But I saw them with lots of bags of plastic bag that they throw off. And he's done a tremendous job across the island. And it was so interesting. It was mainly young people that he was on the airport road. And this is the main entrance of Jamaica. And they did a fantastic job in removing these debris out of the sea. And simple, we always been flooding. Once you go in Jamaica, there's that airport road sometimes, So these simple things can cause flooding. So
absolutely.
Yeah, man.
Thanks for that, Dean. The last few minutes, I'd like to bring Christine just to give us your perspective, then I'll come to Francis. So Christine, if you're interested.
So I'm tempted not to speak, and it's a really inspiring contribution from all of you. I'm challenged with looking at the incentives needed to get the so-called hard to reach residents population on board across the diaspora. So I'd like to propose that we think about awarding, recognizing individuals who are making a difference is number one. How we inspire peer groups to encourage each other not to litter as they are gathering together for social activities, education activities, work. So there's more that we can do to engage those populations. And although, Andrew, you had an acknowledgement about working with local authorities, one of the gaps that we have is that there's not sufficient resources invested in the bottom-up approach, invested in those organisations who reach the need to reach population. And that's what we need to think about doing. Not dropping in and sharing a program and then going away. How do we embed the culture of protecting the environment within the organizations that have trusted relationships, that have the trusted messengers? How do we embed that approach? That's my thought.
Okay.
So more around investment in the locally based organizations, more around empowering the people to challenge each other so that they have a better understanding how they can protect their own environment.
Thanks for that, Christine, because and that's why we included innovation as the third point, and you're so right in terms of the incentives and the problem solvers, and using creativity to solve problems, as people like Mario are doing. So again, it's how we can bring their work and their efforts to greater public awareness. The same with Dean. Dean runs forums online for young people, has done throughout the whole pandemic. So, you know, it was a great program called Community Helpers, developed by Dr. Lola Ramakan. So again, it's how can we get the people who look after the environment to actually be seen as community champions as well. So it's
so I can further respond to that, because if we have awards event, acknowledgement events throughout the year around, you know, the significant calendar dates, and we have diaspora award events, then we can enable viewers, participants to see how their peers are making a contribution, and one person can inspire another. So I think there's a need to invest in a peer-to-peer approach. That would be part of our solution.
Yeah, absolutely. And recognition is so important. So let's see. So Francis, over to you, just to give your perspective on what you've heard and maybe relating it to the work that you intend to do in Enfield.
You can hear me now. I was mute, sorry. I mean, the work we're doing in Enfield clearly is an attempt to try and reach people who are not often heard in the public square, whose voices are not as strong as far as the local authority goes. And so how we empower them is important. And I was really, again, interested in what Christine was saying, and I'd love to do a webinar with her on this. How do we reach those people? How do we find means of doing it? Now, the idea of actually having awards for people who do good things in their community in the eastern part of our borough, I think is a good one, and it's one that we might take up. And how we then get those groups in Eastern Enfield to actually communicate with each other and make connections. I mean, one of the advantages of our network is that we're 130 civil society organizations, and we're already making those connections, but we aren't making them as effectively in the east of the borough as we can. And what the project we're doing is enabling us to do is to make contact in a way with groups that we haven't before. And if we can now get those groups to make contact with each other, to work with us going forward, I think it'll be really a sort of sea change in the way we do things. And the next stage after that is to get the authorities to listen to them. Now, the health authorities that we're working with want to do that, which is one of the reasons why they've come on board with this. They're really, really keen to reach those groups because they know those groups are going to have health problems because of climate change. The big problem with us and many groups across the country is engaging local authorities. They always, you know, want to feel that they're the prime mover. Everything that's good, they started, they did. And they find it very difficult to get engaged in authentic, genuine, bottom-up initiatives. And I think our next challenge is, or one of our next challenges, is how we address that problem.
Yeah, that's definitely a program for another day. Absolutely. Okay. Right, we're drawing to the end of this initial discussion, which is really pleasing, actually. I think we've got off to a good start. We've got to work. But the most important thing for me is we got a sense of direction. We do appreciate what needs to be done. And it's not that difficult to translate this into workable plans, because we do have the connections at the local level. We do have the connections within the diaspora movement. We are used to responding to people's needs and communities' needs as well, outside of our own. So it's just, you know, how we you know, collaborate and start to put together some plans. So I would say that watch this space. Dean, you've got your hand up. Go straight to you.
Yeah, I the first essay I wrote in college was Seize the Moment, and we can see here. I have over 60 students on my platform, and I was saying, Rudy, I like to give competition incentive. So I don't know who would like to sponsor somebody now who could put that as a challenge to each person to do a project, you know, have a video, whether it's a backyard garden area that was messed up in their community and what they have done to make it. They would give, you know, and I don't like to, if we can leave here with a start. I mean, Christine, I don't want to just throw my words at you, but we could say Christine W. Scholarship for the most outstanding students on the Let's Talk on the Corner as an incentive to start with these young people, because like crime, I believe the best person is at home, the parents. We can start with each child at his house. You know, what are your community? In October, we're going to be having what is called our community era. What they do for their community to make a difference. So we could use this as an incentive. They will get the environmental trophy award for the most, you know, someone will make a difference. I don't know, just a suggestion.
Yeah, we won't put Christine on the spot.
No, I like it. It's a good initiative. I think acknowledging success stories across the diaspora, backed up by 1-minute videos, TikTok, podcast, call it what you like. I think, Rudy, that will use and utilize your skills and your method of making sure we communicate the messages here, and then there's a legacy that others can be inspired by. You know, what enables us to create change is being inspired by people who look like us and sound like us. So that's what we need to do, get the good news stories at a micro level, cascaded at a national level. That's what we need to do.
Absolutely. I mean, one of the questions that we do ask, and I have done with college students, particularly in Jamaica, is that to ask them, what are the issues that you've seen that need to be addressed in your neighborhood, in your local communities, given all this education that they're getting. So there is a way that we also have to work out how best the community can get involved in solving some of these issues for themselves as well. So yeah, we've got plenty to think about.
We've got so much to think about. And I think my suggestion for our future meeting, so those on Facebook who are listening, there's ourselves on the Zoom platform, but being able to share at the start of the conversation one inspiring effort towards diaspora climate change that you'd like to share. And imagine we'd be flooded with ideas that people have seen at a micro level, and we're sharing it in this space of an hour. And then that goes viral as well. So it's about echoing good practice and sharing good practice that others can invest in. I'm going to close by starting with an initiative that we're looking at tomorrow, in fact, and it's called the Library of Things. So it's not, so the Library of Things is your one-stop shop at a local level where you can borrow a hose to water your garden, you can borrow a hoover, you can borrow an item, just as if you were in the library. And there's an initiative in Dalston, in Hackney, there's an initiative in Kensington and Chelsea, and we're thinking about an initiative in Brent. But imagine that across the diaspora. So you don't have to go and spend. So communities need to trust each other, that you can loan something and bring it back to the library and get something else that you need. We're saving money, we're befriending, and we're protecting the environment. So that's all going to improve our ability to reuse and recycle. So I think we should come to this platform with ideas that inspire each other, you know, and leave with that menu and take that forward until we next connect.
Can I say, Rudy, I did a webinar on the Library of Things with the lady in the United States who founded it, and a project in the United Kingdom that took it up. It's a really great initiative.
It sounds good. Does sound good.
Hey, 1 second, Rudy. Just 1 second. Hey, Dean, I think that it's like you said, it's a good idea. And what I would like to do is I would have to do some calculations, and the bottles that I've been collecting from recycling. Basically, I will try to see what value they are worth.
Yeah, that's good.
And I'll use that as a contribution towards what you're doing.
Excellent.
You know,
great idea. Creativity solves all problems.
Yeah, well, the recycling initiative is very important, you know, Rudy, and I wish that everyone could understand. Maybe we could have I could send information, detailed information on the project, because the recycling, like I said, it would create a circular economy in the sense where jobs would be created. You know, I mean, just in the States, just in America alone, when it comes down to recycling, there was 463,000 jobs that were created in the last couple of years, just regarding recycling, you know. So I think that is very important. And since we are consumers of the products and we're the one, you know, creating the problems, you know, I think that would be very good if we could take it seriously.
Absolutely. The green economy is so important, and what goes on in our local neighborhoods and communities.
Can I just one last point?
Yeah.
The very last point. The reason why this is so important to me is because I found out what happens to our plastics here in Jamaica that's being collected currently by one company. And basically they sell all that plastic to one company, which in turn take it back to their country, makes car batteries and many different car parts and stuff like that. And when they send it back to Jamaica, and then we purchase the parts after. So I don't think that makes any sense. And I think that, you know, there's opportunity to create this circular economy, same here in Jamaica. And there's very opportunities, you know, I mean, we import everything, you know, so I just think that, you know, it would be a good thing.
Okay, great. So thank you very much, everybody, for this first discussion on our Diaspora Climate Action series. And I wish you all very well. Thank you and good night.
Thank you all. Thank you.